Prabhupada was following after a fire sacrifice and initiations. So
Got it.
yeah,
So you can see in that chanting, I've never thought of it before because I've just always figured when Prabhupada was there, the chanting was always very nice. But in the chanting, you can hear the uplifting part to the higher platform, and then you can hear the danger platform of how it will sag at some future date.
yeah,
You know, it's that's the thing. So there's nothing to grieve. There's no lamentation involved. It's a question of really understanding the bigger picture.
mm-hmm.
The
Right,
bigger picture. The bigger picture meaning that when Prabhupada appeared, his method of delivering uh, unworthy people like myself uh, to any platform of understanding of Krishna consciousness, no matter how fractional, uh, was a step, and it was meant to collapse because it couldn't not collapse. It couldn't be sustained. So we shouldn't regret. And as far as where we can regret and sort of thumb our nose is at creating the GBC to created the bogus gurus. That was an egregious act against Prabhupada. That
mm-hmm.
is totally. But that simply plays upon the weakness of the devotees that were like hovering above and below the platform. You know, they come to the platform of spiritual uh, experience, and they can go up bit by bit, but at the same time, they're prone to go down in their off hours and whatever, you know. And then when they have no supervision, when they are the biggest authority around, then they go way down while pretending to be way up.
That's a very
Yeah,
good point because my observation reading Srila Prabhupada's books, lectures, conversations, letters, a lot of these so called rubber stamped institutionalized gurus, their conclusions are far distant from what Srila Prabhupada actually has said, what he upheld. You know, he repeated the same point regarding women's issues, regarding Varnashram, regarding Sankirtan, regarding the books. Everything has changed. Everything.
yeah, because it doesn't suit them. It doesn't. There's nothing in it for them. It's sort of like if you go. It's sort of like people going to a smorgasbord sort of party, or a party where there's the tables laid out with all sorts of dishes. They only go for the ones that they want. They don't care. That one may be a much better dish, but it's not their taste, so they don't go for it. So they
Right.
only go for what they think they can use.
Mm.
But Krishna consciousness is not about using, it's about being used.
Right.
We
Right.
are meant to be used by Prabhupada, by Krishna, and by the humanity at large. If we are aware of the humanity at large and the fact that they are in a state, we can make fun of them, we can insult them, we can call them karmis, we can avoid their association, but when it gets down to it, they're suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the answer. And if we can't deliver that answer, we're not going to be happy ourselves. So then we create an artificial happiness instead. Oh, how I'm initiated by so and so, and this is this and that's that. We're reading Prabhupada's books, what's left of them, is the changed parts only, not the unchanged parts. And that just goes on. But it doesn't solve the reason why Lord Chaitanya created ISKCON. This Krishna consciousness movement was actually created. We can say, oh, Prabhupada was from Bengal, he started International Society, etc. But that's not what really happened. What really happened is Prabhupada was sent to create a swirl or a dynamic, like a dance inside of the quicksand, so that people would pick up on Krishna consciousness bit by bit and get some taste and make some progress. Where the problem came in, of course, was cutting Prabhupada out of the equation. And then the people said, now we're successors, we're going to do it our way. And of course, that didn't work well at all. Didn't and doesn't work well at all. But you can see the impulse is there. Anyone, any man who has plenty of food, seeing a hungry man, won't he invite him to eat? I mean, how many men will have a big banquet and a hungry man comes and says, no, go away, you're not going to eat here. No, he says, come and eat to your full satisfaction. That's our process. And we will not be satisfied until we are doing that. There's bridges to be crossed, both for you and for me. We have to cross the bridge of me being on one side of the issue and everybody else being on the other side of the issue. There's only one side, and it's the side of the fallen conditioned souls suffering. And if these fallen souls can hear us, then they can be a bit attracted. When we see their attractiveness, we reach out to them and say, come on, let's go. They say, where? Back to Godhead. What's that? Come with us, you'll see. It's not as bad as you think. Going back to Godhead isn't as bad as you think. Oh, do I think about my body? Okay, let's take 3 minutes of silence, take some deep breaths, and then ask yourself, are you going to give up your body anyhow? Or you're never going to give up your body? Well, I don't want to give up my body, but will you? What age? 200 years old, 90 years old, 100 years old? Some age you're going to give up your body. So why are you so worried about your stupid body? It was not helping you understand who you are. But I am this person, I am the scientist, I am this doctor, I am, yeah, until when? Until you retire or until you die, which is it going to be? So don't say that, because you have to look at life as a cycle. You're born, you crawl, you drink milk from your mother's breast, you walk along, you begin to be able to run around and scamper around, and you look over your shoulder at your parents and you laugh because you're doing so well. Then you get a little older, then you can start to do things like ride a bicycle, go to school, you start to study, and if you're in a good situation, you start to study Gurukula topics like Shastra, Sanskrit, in the ashram of some relative of Sandipani Muni. And then when you get older, then you have feet under you and you have muscles on your shoulder, and you're able to say, now I am ready to go forth and make the world what Krishna would like to see it be. And if I can do that, then what is the problem? So that's where people come into the snag, and devotees too. They stay there and then they get caught up. Oh, I'm so-and-so brahmachari. Oh, I'm so-and-so Maharaj. Oh, really? Look around you. Have you seen any Maharaj that lived more than 400 years recently? Well, if you haven't, then stop counting on being a Maharaj and start counting on delivering the fallen souls by hearing their pain and caring. It's just a question of caring about others' pain. If I can care for others' pain or discomfort or misery or unhappiness or desperation, if I can feel it, how can I not act on it? But everyone is so protected by their false ego that is based on their body that they say, well, I'm okay, my family's okay, my dog's okay, my house is okay. I just want to put up some bars and keep those other people out. No, we don't have to let them in. That's another point. We don't have to let anyone into our house unless they're coming in for kirtan and prasadam. That's a temple. we can go out. That is what Sankirtan is going out and feeling the pain and going to the where the pain is being felt and chant it into peace, then chant it into warmth, then chant it into bliss, then chant it into ecstasy. And then when you do that, then you can go home, get some rest, and go out tomorrow and do the same thing. And make sure everyone hears and chants. And not so much, we make it a cliche, like a religious principle of chanting and hearing and chanting. You got to chant, you got to hear. That's not how you go about doing it, though. You chant and then hear the echo of feeling in those who encounter your chanting. And when that occurs, then you're able to reach out to them with a merciful hand outstretched. Come on. Don't get caught up in this Maya. You've suffered. Have you not suffered enough? Oh, yeah, I've suffered a lot. Well, this is chanting will help you unpuzzle your suffering. You'll be able to chant in the middle of your suffering, like a well of suffering. You're in an ocean of suffering. You can be chanting in that ocean, and gradually you'll begin to find out that the part of you that's chanting is the part that is ending up turning out to be you, Jiva. And the part that is not chanting, it is just a thought. It is simply a thought. It is simply not useful part of the environment. And if it's temporary, even if it lives for 100 years, if it's temporary, don't bother with it. It won't do you any good. At the time of death, you will watch your body, you'll watch the mind and soul lifting out of the body, yours. You'll be lifting out of the body through the nose, hopefully not through the rectum, out through the nose, out to the brow, not through the crown chakra. That would be rather extreme experience. But through your mouth, through your nose, and you come out, and you say, I was working so hard for that body to have everything it needed. But all it ever needed was some food, some water, some clothing when it was cold. Take off the clothing when it's hot. That's all I ever needed. Why did I go to such extremes to get this 20,000 square foot mansion that now there's only one room in it that suits me, and that's my bedroom where I'm lying to die. So I bought this whole mansion simply to die in. I was in the hospital with tubes sticking out all over the place. Oh, take me home. I want to die in my own bed. Really? You've got a 20,000 square foot mansion so that you can die in your bed? You can die under a tree. You can die on the middle of the road. You can die on the living room floor of a small apartment building. And you bought this building simply so you'd have a place to die? Oh, no, I got it also so my children would have something from me. They will inherit it. Well, considering it's 120,000 square foot mansion, they're going to fight over it. But leaving that part aside of them fighting over it, what are they going to do? What if one of them wins and gets to keep it? And the other ones go off totally annoyed because they didn't get to keep it. What's he going to do? He will stay there until he's like you, on his deathbed, ready to die. Great accomplishment, eh? And all the neighbors are going to be jealous. Look at him. He's dying in a very wealthy house. And when I die, I will be dying in a rented apartment. May I ask, what is the difference when you're dying? whatever it is, you leave it behind. There was a story of a man who was thinking that when he dies, he's going to take something valuable with him to heaven. This is a sort of Christianish sort of story. He's going to die and he's going to take something valuable. And he spent years trying to figure out what is the most valuable thing I can bring. Finally, he figured it would be gold. So he filled up 2 suitcases with gold. Because gold is heavy, he had to have 2 suitcases because otherwise he'd be falling over sideways. So he had these 2 suitcases of gold and he kept them by his bed. Then he prayed to God, oh, please, I want to come and bring something. Well, don't you know that's against the rules? Says God. Yes, I know, but make an exception in my case because I want to have something of value when I get to heaven. Finally agrees. So he dies, and there he is in his astral body walking up to the pearly gates. St. Peter looks at him and said, I said, am I welcome? He says, oh yeah, you're welcome, but you can't bring those suitcases in. Oh no, I can bring them in. No, you can't. No one can. Why do you think you can when no one else can? Oh, I made this secret deal with God, and he said I can. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. And finally the guy says, look, what are we going to do? Stay here for the rest of eternity arguing over whether I can bring these suitcases in? Go ask him. So Peter looks at him. His eyes roll in disgust, and he wanders off into the infinite distance and stays gone for an infinite period of time. And when he comes back, he looks at the man and says, you know, I'll be hornswoggled. God did give you permission to bring it in. And the man looked at him and said, I told you so. We could have saved a few eternities in the process. I had to wait here tapping my foot for several eternities. He said, so may I come in? Oh, yes, you may. And then St. Peter said, but wait, what now? And this is the first time anyone's ever brought anything into heaven. You're going to have to go through customs. Customs? What do you mean? Yeah, anytime you go into a place, you have to go through the customs of the place. So, Kerblam, St. Peter manifests a big customs table. Says, put your suitcases there, and we'll have some people go through them. Oh, ye gods, what to take? What you have to go through? I thought it would be easier than that. So he puts the suitcases on, and finally he opens them up, and St. Peter stares at the gold bars inside the suitcases. He said, I don't get it. He said, what don't you get? Why did you bring this stuff? It's gold, you idiot. Don't you know what gold is? It's so valuable. No, that's gold. I'm saying, why did you bring pavement? Why did you bring pavement? 2 suitcases full of pavement. Because they say the streets of heaven are paved with gold. So he thought it was such a special thing, and he brought it into heaven. It was just pavement. So this is the thing about the people taking up Krishna consciousness, is that they have to understand that where they're going, and the guy that's dying in his bed, he's not going to get to take anything with him into his next birth. It doesn't matter, Christian or Jew or Muslim or atheist, or doesn't matter. Once he's lying there, the soul and mind detach from the body, and they start disengaging. Just like the soul and mind engage at the time of conception, they go into the egg. The jiva is in the sperm and goes into the egg with the mind, and there starts to brew some trouble. And then, at the time of death, disengagement.
Girls, dinner's ready.
What? Hello?
It's fine. I was trying to reach the girls.
Oh no, they're in the bedroom. So So the soul has to be ready to have nothing at the time of death. And whatever he has in his mind, now if his mind is not beaten 50 times with a shoe in the morning and 50 times with a stick at night, then the soul will be full, the mind, I mean, the soul will be full of all sorts of intentions and based on the capacity of a part and parcel of Krishna to have desires. Why not? Krishna has desires, why not his part and parcel have desires? So there is conditioned soul has desires. The mind is flooded with all sorts of things it wants to try next. Or, if the case of going to hell, avoid trying next. So that's what happens. So this man at the time of death, whatever he can leave behind, that will be good. And imagine, he loved his grandchildren and great-grandchildren and his wife, ancient wife, and his sisters and his cousins and his daughters and all those people. And oh, Tripod, don't die, we don't want to lose you. Stay with us. 10 more minutes, just don't go. What does that do for him? If he really, really is fond of them and is attached to them, he'll be reaching out not to go. But he's going to go anyhow. So he goes with a huge, entangled burden in his mind and the soul, full of perplexed and bewildered desires. I'm dying and yet they want me to stay. What the hell should I do? And therefore he has to take another birth and a lesser birth. Not a greater birth, lesser birth. The only way to take a higher birth is to try to become either you have to develop a lot of good karma, which in Kali Yuga is no longer possible. People can't. They don't, they can't, they won't, and they never will in Kali Yuga. Just like saying in the wintertime, in the seasons, if you're in the springtime and you see fruit, flowers, in the summertime you see mature fruits on the trees, you go to winter, oh, I'm going to go out and pick some cherries. Oh, yeah? Try it. Well, I froze my fingers almost off, but there wasn't a single cherry on a single branch. What happened? That was a cherry tree, wasn't it? Yes, but it's winter, and in winter there's no cherries. You mean, what do I have to do? You have to wait past spring, where the blossoms come. You have to wait until summer and fall. Then you can have cherries. How long will that be? Oh, that will be hundreds and hundreds of millions of years until Satya Yuga and Dwapara Yuga and Treta Yuga. That's what it will be. So therefore, anybody with an ounce of intelligence should say, you know, I don't have anything much. I'm going to give up what little I have. Whatever I have is not worth having. Because compared to Brahma, compared to Indra, compared to the Gandharvas, compared to all the great saintly beings in the universe and the great rich, prosperous enjoyers of the universe, what I have is not even enough for a beggar to beg. It's nothing. It's less than nothing. It's simply anartha. I should throw it on the ground and just let go and go back to as high as I can in my next birth. I think I heard something in this birth, some guy, and I was making fun of him. He was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And I screamed, Hare Krishna, like that, making fun of him. But in this stage, maybe if I chant Hare Krishna, but wait, he chanted Hare Krishna. Sounds better now than it did at that time when I was half drunk coming home with a girl and loaded up on drugs and stuff like that. It sounds better now. I'll try. Then he can make some real advancement, even if how sinful he was. And that's why Sankirtan is so effective, because nobody has to chant. You can go out and chant. Nobody has to chant. You say, oh, it was a total failure. Nobody chanted. No, it's a total success. Because were there no germs in your body, in the body of the guy next to you who's telling you to shut up, in the plants, in the frogs, in the raccoons? Nobody was there? Oh, no, no, but I wanted people to come up and say, I want to make a donation and I want to surrender and give me one of those robes and I'm going to join you and you can be my guru. No, not necessary. If you can get one ant to hear the Hare Krishna mantra once, then Prabhupada said literally to me in 1968 that our whole movement is a glorious success. Hare Krishna. Now, do you have that passage you want to read?
Yes, I have it here. 1 second.
Yes. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, I'm ready. So, this is from a philosophy discussion with Srila Prabhupada with Auguste Comte. So, here it says, when women,
Oh, could I ask though, who is this Auguste Comte? Is he in France?
yeah, it seems like a philosophical discussion with Srila Prabhupada. Auguste Comte, or
Because
C-O-M.
I know that he had conversations with high-ranking Catholic members.
Hmm.
And funny, just for the sake of that argument, I don't want to interrupt you at all, but it was someone like a cardinal or somebody really up there, and he was arguing with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was reasoning with him, and then later, some years later, he died in a whorehouse.
Yeah.
And you heard about that?
Yeah.
And they took his body out, and they said, "What was he doing in a whorehouse?" Oh, His Holiness was so merciful. He was in there preaching to the whores with his pants down. So it was the same guy.
Yes, yes. Their cardinal, where was it? In London or something, right? Was it in
I
London?
thought it was Paris. I thought.
Oh, Paris. Yes, Paris. Yes, sorry, Paris.
Yes.
Apparently,
Go ahead.
he was a big man, huh? This cardinal or whatever.
Well, cardinal's at the top.
Oh,
Cardinal means primary, like first class. He's right under the Pope.
wow, he's right under the Pope. So
Well,
I
that's a
saw
whole
that
bunch of
video.
them. There's a bunch of them that are under the Pope.
Acha.
Probably maybe a couple of hundred of them, but they're all right under the Pope. And from one of the cardinals, the next Pope is selected by election, just like ISKCON.
Anyways, it was pretty interesting, that discussion. Srila Prabhupada was ringing him the point that you should not do this sinful activities, and he died in a whorehouse. Interesting, to say the least.
Exactly.
I mean,
Well, of course, Prabhupada with Trikalaga could look in his face and see how he was going to die.
right.
Past, present, and future Trikalaga. So go ahead with your reading.
Okay, so this is from the discussion with Srila Prabhupada with Auguste Comte. When woman is misguided, she becomes dangerous. There is no question of love. But one thing, according to the Vedic conception, life, that women and children are on the same level. So they should be given protection by men. In childhood, the protection is from the father. In youthhood, the protection is from the husband. And in old age, the protection is from grown up sons. So they should never be given independence. They should be given protection and their natural love for father or for the husband or for the children. Then that propensity will grow very smoothly and that they will establish the relationship with woman and man will be very happy. And both of them will be able to execute their real function, spiritual life, by cooperation.
Yes, that's
Wonderful.
what we were discussing at various angles of that same notion. Yes, that's right. So go ahead. What is the next part?
Yes, the next part. The woman is the woman is known as the better half. So if she looks after the comfort of the man, a man is working and he is looking after the comfort, then both will be satisfied and their spiritual life will progress. Woman is meant for certain duties, man is meant for certain duties. Man is meant for working hard, and woman is meant for homely comfort, love. So, both of them, if they are situated in their respective duties under proper training, then this combination of man and woman will help both of them to make spiritual progress in spiritual life.
Yes, it's
Wonderful.
natural.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. You take one piece and then there's another piece that fits over a part of that piece, and you put them together and it starts making the puzzle. You keep putting it together and you end up with a beautiful picture.
Jai.
But if you try to smash it with your fist, it doesn't do any good. It doesn't turn into anything nice. So now, what, you have a question or what is it
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada says when she is misguided, she becomes dangerous. So what does Srila Prabhupada mean by this? When she is misguided, she becomes dangerous.
well, consider that the woman women have, I, I have a hard time with many people because I say, in spite of anything else you can say, a woman is a mammal, a female mammal. She's equipped with nurturing breasts and she's equipped with a uterus for producing offspring. That's what mammals do. Female mammals produce offspring, then they give them milk. Pretty exclusively, no? I mean, have
Right.
you seen any mammals? Even whales do. What to speak of, deer and other cows and other more conspicuous mammals. So when that is taking place, that function is a very nice function when protected. But we can see now that cows are giving milk, then they're slaughtered. And it becomes a hellish situation.
Hmm.
So the woman, when she is doing her mammalian, it's not a human thing to reproduce, it's a mammalian thing to reproduce. When she reproduces, then how does she protect her offspring? And does she give a damn? I mean, does she just want to have sex and say, wow, that was nice? Or is she going to say, I've had sex and now I can see it. Now I have a baby. Now I'm nursing the baby. Now what? And we can see we're living in a world right now of now what?
Hmm.
Oh, they even have ceremonies when the baby's born as to whether the gender needs to be reassigned at birth. Some people did that up in the Northern California, and they had a campfire where they did it, and it ended up making a huge forest fire, karmically. So when the baby is conceived, the next question is, does this end with me, says the woman? Or am I raising this child to be someone? And does that someone, a boy, that someone, a girl, if history is going to repeat itself, that girl will want to reproduce as well when she gets old enough.
Hmm.
I look at her now, oh, she's so young and innocent, she wouldn't think about reproducing, not at this age. Of course not. She's growing bits incrementally, step by step. But when she reaches puberty, there's nothing else she wants to think about except reproducing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it's just natural. And then you say, well, then what about the original woman? Well, she's gradually fading into a support system, not a reproduction system. After age 40, 50, whatever, she stops giving birth. And then she helps those she gave birth to attain something, something. Emphasis on the word something with red letters and parentheses and quotation marks around it. Something. What does that child become? Something. And that depends on the Dharma or lack of it in the home. So when Prabhupada says the woman can be dangerous, she's dangerous when she raises a child to not bring glory to the family. The boy can bring shame and poverty to a rich home. I met a boy like that, was a devotee. His family was like for 40 million, this is back 1969, his family was worth $40 million, and somehow he managed to bring them all into poverty.
Wow.
Destroyed their whole family fortune.
Mm.
He explained to me how he did it, but it was fairly complicated. He didn't do it on purpose. He was a phenomenon. He was a bolt of lightning out of the sky or a tsunami that sweeps people away when they're standing on the beach. He was just a bad karma. He was a example of bad karma. One son could destroy everything for everybody else, for himself and everybody else. He didn't mind because he became a devotee. He was austere, didn't give a damn. But what he did to his family was just jaw-droppingly horrible, from the correct point of view. So this is why the woman can be dangerous. How is she raising the child? Is she just having sex to have children and then keeps them there? A lot of people do. A lot of Afro-American women and others, poor people, I should say, not just Afro-American, but they have children simply because President Lyndon B. Johnson created a welfare system that if a woman's alone with a baby, she can make some money every month. And if she has 2 children, she makes more. If she has 4 children, wow, 6 children, she can buy a Mercedes without working and without a husband. So think about a woman like that. What could be more dangerous than a woman like that?
That's insane.
Now we say dangerous for who? For the husband? Well, in this case, she didn't have a husband. Or maybe she had several husbands. But whatever it is, she couldn't have a husband because if there's a man even living in the house, she won't get the welfare. So he has to keep his distance and sneak in at night and then sneak out in the morning. And then she gets pregnant again, gets more money. The Great Society is what Lyndon B. Johnson called it. But it was a way of enslaving women. It was also, for those that didn't want to have babies, a method of promoting abortion. And that's why even to this day, the majority of abortion clinics are in minority communities. So the woman being dangerous, you can see there's so many ways for a woman to be dangerous. Practically speaking, in our day and age, meaning I'm not saying non-Hindus because Hindus are falling into the same trap, but in our day and age, non-Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, they're dangerous. And we can see that even when people join the movement and become devotees, become initiated, get their sacred thread and all that, the women get their phantom sacred thread, that they begin to live dangerously. And there's a breakup of the family. The children are taken not well care of. Everything goes to hell. Why? Because they're not following the exact thing which you read the quotation of, Dharma. Well, it didn't say Dharma, but that's what it is, Dharma. The dharma of the woman is to worship her husband, not exactly worship in an, effusive sort of emotional way, but regard her husband as though he were her access to Vishnu. Why Vishnu? Because Krishna is involved in informal pastimes with Radharani. That's not the point. The point is, what we're talking about, a republic, not a democracy. The women are constantly moved towards creating democracy, meaning do it, mob rule, do whatever you please, take off your clothes, get a tattoo, put lipstick all over your body, go to the beach with your kids, teach them to do the same until your people, your whole family becomes really no better than a pack of dogs. In fact, less than a pack of dogs, because dogs have their own canine dharma. They know how to behave, usually. The wild ones do. The tame ones have had their genitals cut off, so they're sort of like stuck betwixt and between. They're not even really existing. So the danger of a woman is that she decides to do things her own way without consulting her husband, who, if she's lucky in husbands, will be consulting Prabhupada's books or consulting history, consulting Vaishnava's tradition, anything to guide his wife along the path upward, and she automatically will bring her children up as well. Automatically. Instead of telling the children, oh, do this, do that, anything you please, video games, whatever. No. Up. Learn to come up vertically. And the husband has to be able to do that. If the husband can't do that, he has to try. And by trying, at least she has a sense of what direction to go. But if he doesn't try, if he's just a wandering guy smoking pot and having sex with whomever and whatever, then she has no guidance, what she needs. And because the guidance in the home is your castle. The man's home is this castle. So you have this home, and in it is the husband, the wife, children, and in-laws and whatnot are there also often enough. But it's based on the husband, the wife, and the children. And in that home, if there is anything that breaks the sanctity of the home, it will bring about danger. And so the woman also, if her husband is not perfectly strong, the woman can demand, you're the husband, and I've heard women do this, you're the husband, set my example. You're the husband, show me what to do. Teach me what to do. But don't let me just do whatever I please, or I'll just end up on a shopping spree and we won't have any money left in our credit card account. You have to take that into account. So when there's a question
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes. Oh, it sounds like Shravan.
Yes, it's a disciple
So
of Narayan.
what do you do if she doesn't listen to the husband? Then what?
If which what?
She's not in submission.
Then the husband needs to set such an example in such a way that she sees the advantage to following her husband. In other words, any woman looks for her best advantage, wouldn't you say? What she considers to be her best advantage.
Yeah, well,
If
they're
her-
less intelligent, so they might think it's advantageous of them to do something, but at the end, in a few years, it's going to backfire. So,
Exactly. Therefore, when a woman is looking for an advantage, the man has to provide that element of example in his own personal life, that she will say, well, try A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll do it the way my husband wants it done. Let her might wander all over the place. But then if she concludes at the end, I need to do this according to what will make my husband happy, me happy, and my children happy. So if a woman also naturally wants her children to be happy, unless she's very degraded, in which case she might sell her children into prostitution. This happens a lot of the time now. But if she generally wants her children to, a real mother, a real father will want their children to go beyond them, not that they will become less than them. I'm a multimillionaire. I'd like you to make $100,000. If you make more than that, I will feel jealous and challenged because you might make $200 million and I will feel like a beggar. You see? So the husband has to, the father of the child and the husband has to be looking to the child to become greater than they are.
Wow, that's a wonderful point, that that the father has to be spiritually strong, and then his life's goal should be to bless the child in such a way that he advances much further than the father and the family, the so-called family.
Yes. Oh, do you know who also saw that as a great advantage? You'll be surprised.
Srila Prabhupada's father.
Charles, yes, of course. But I'm going to say Charles Darwin.
Oh, yeah.
Selection, natural selection means the species goes with the strongest example. So the dominant male wants to find the dominant female. That's in nature amongst animals. Plants also, for that matter.
Right.
The dominant creature wants a dominant partner. And if you don't think that's true, then ask yourself, why do women in the world, or at least in the United States, spend probably about 15 or 20 billion dollars on makeup, cosmetics?
To attract the dominant male, I guess.
Exactly. It's a little piece of crap as a female, but I want to get a really good male, so I'm going to put on eyeliner and lipstick.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But this is material. If a woman wants to really be a fine woman, then she will want to attract them with her spiritual Shakti.
Naturally, I've seen women hardly have any spiritual Shakti. I mean, Prabhupada was saying in a conversation letter that generally women are not interested in spiritual life. They're interested in house, family, children, but spiritual life, not so much. And maybe there's a rare instances, but general case is that they're not so much interested in spiritual life, unless, of course, the husband is very strong and powerful. Then they might get some inclination.
Or unless they themselves have become disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
And they've seen.
Yes, that's a very good point.
But essentially, yes, but essentially, a woman will go towards what works. A female, why a woman? Female of any species will go towards what works, even that amongst plants. They go.
What do you mean, what works? What do you mean, what works? Can you elaborate?
If a woman wants to get the most out of her life, she will go towards what works, meaning what works to bring her the best advantage in her life. You see, the woman wants to have the best advantage. Well, her number one thing is to get the man who is going to be too good for her. She's going to put on makeup so he'll think she's as good as he is. And then he will ask her to marry him. So you see, that's the thing. That's the natural selection of Darwin, what to speak of on spiritual life? It's on steroids. It's turbocharged because there you have real advancement, not just stronger bodies, stronger mind, bigger teeth, longer claws, which are all important if you're not into spiritual life. But if you are into spiritual life, then you don't need any claws. Just look at Devahudi and
Kadamba Muni.
what? Kardama Muni.
Yes.
Yeah, he was sitting there meditating on the bank of a lake. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lake was filled with the tears of advanced ladies, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know. Shravan, do you know what was the lake filled with? What kind
I
of?
used to know.
Anyways, go ahead, Prabhu.
Kardama Muni?
Anyhow,
Yes.
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead,
okay,
Prabhu.
that's fine. Anyhow, it was filled like that. And so this princess was sitting on the top of her castle, and the demigods would fly by. Devahudi, right? Was that Devahudi?
Yes.
They would fly by the top of the castle, and they would look down, and they would see this beautiful girl, modestly dressed in Vedic clothes, but sunbathing nonetheless. And they became so thunderstruck they would fall out of their vimana and onto the ground, out, because they were so beautiful. But she somehow heard about Kardama Muni and wanted to marry him. So she left her castle, left her father, left the prospects of marriage to anybody. The top, the highest bachelor in the world would have committed suicide if he didn't get her. And she went off and sat next to Kardama Muni, who was meditating for 50,000 years. So she meditated with him until she became scrawny and her hair was all tangled up and sitting by the bank of the lake. And when he finished his meditation, these goddesses came out of the lake and took her into the lake and bathed her. And she came out twice as beautiful as she had started out as. And then they got married. And very interestingly, they all went on their honeymoon. They went to Mount Meru. The demigod place is full of very exotic and erotic chambers. And they went on a flying palace that flew in the air. And as they went, they were doing it day and night. And so says the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he went to Mount Meru and did it some more there. So whatever happened is she ended up with most extraordinary child or children, the Kapila, right? So it was an incarnation of Krishna. So that is a good example of a woman following, who is highly qualified to get any man, following a higher instinct to get Kardama Muni instead. And by getting Kardama Muni, I would like to have a child who is greater than his parents. How about Krishna? How about an incarnation of Krishna? So that is the principle. Yes, well, Kardama Muni, Kapila is an incarnation of Krishna. And so, I got all the advantage of reading these books while illustrating them, or designing the illustrations, or supervising the artists who were illustrating them.
Right.
And so what happened is that this example of a woman who had given up all material things and became actually worn out and leathery looking because of sitting day and night out on the side of a lake, then was refreshed and then gave birth. And then Kapila, most unusually, most of the Shastra is about the parents and mentions the children. Even the children, Krishna book is about the parents and the whatnot and mentions Krishna,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, the 10th canto, Childhood Pastimes, Krishna doesn't write anything, right?
Right.
He doesn't even say anything, doesn't say anything or write anything. He's just there, Krishna. Yeah, transcendentally blue little boy. And yet, in this case, this incarnation of Krishna, Kapila Dev, wrote the teachings of Kapila to his mother Devahuti. So his mother became his disciple.
Right.
So this is just to stretch the example of how a man, ordinary man like me, didn't work out that way though, ordinary man like me can then go ahead and find a woman, or if a king, women, and come forward and try to evoke a child greater than he is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kapila is an extreme example of a child greater than oneself. Krishna himself became incarnated. But so anyhow, that's basically the idea. So in the case of the man, the woman following her husband, she should think of Devahuti. She should think of the saintliness of a woman who wants to have a wonderful, perfect, delicious spiritual life and have children with whom her heart will, in the presence that her heart will melt in the presence of these children.
Jai.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is very insightful about how men should think, women should think, how they should behave, how they should act, and how they should live.
Yeah, and therefore we have the Shastra. The Shastra is not simply to make yourself smart so you can go back to Godhead this lifetime. The Shastra is to show you how, if you want to live with pleasure, satisfaction, greatness, and fulfillment, well, read these stories.
Yeah.
Read the story of Kapila Dev and his father Kardama Muni and his mother Devahuti. Read that story and then aspire for yourself to have as high a quality child. Now, during the time of conception, this is another time when a woman should not be off track, or a man. Instead of thinking of kinky stuff to do with his wife, and vice versa, they should be trying to evoke a soul to come into that intercourse from a higher place than they dare even think of.
Mm-hmm.
When you say dare even think of, this child should come from such a high place that they have no qualifications to receive it.
Wow. Yeah.
But by receiving this child, then they can make arrangements to improve their own lives to match the need of the child. If you see a child is sensitive to sun, well, then you get him a parasol and some suntan lotion. But if the child is just rough and tough, you can leave him out in the sun and nothing happens except he turns gray, or brown. So the idea is if you have a very fine child, then the next thing to do is to cultivate that child. Like Shravan has very wonderful daughters. You cultivate these daughters as spiritual beings and bring them up. And you have beautiful children. Cultivate them. Cultivate them. They're higher than you think. Because even if we don't intend to have extraordinary children, if we're following the regulated principles and we're having sex to have children and the child is conceived, we can understand that child is better than the mood that we created it with. We may have thought, oh, no, it's a good time. I'm a little horny and I think it's a good time. We can chant 50 rounds or something. And well, let's get it on, You can think that. But by so doing, by taking any precaution, even just by being a vegetarian devotee, eating prasadam, even if you don't chant 50 rounds, even if you don't think ahead, even if you don't care much about the outcome, if you're a devotee, the child will be, with any degree of luck, born from a good place and be a credit to your lineage.
Jai.
I think I should quit at this point.
What do you mean quit? There's no quitting.
There's no quitting, but I want to liberate my family so that they can get on with their lives. Is okay? We've been talking. How long did we talk so far?
We have talked for about. Shravan, any questions? Let
I
me
think
see.
he's not. I don't think he's there
Well,
anymore.
see, the problem arises when, wife,
What?
like you said, a wife, if she's misguided, being less intelligent, she does her own thing.
Well, then it's up to the husband to
And
be smarter than she is. It's sort of like if a child has razor blades in his hands but hasn't cut himself yet, then the parent can come by with a sweet, not angry, not frustrated, not give me those damn razor blades, but with a beautiful smile and a gorgeous toy bouncing up and down. The child will look at it and start giggling and wanting it, reaching out for the toy and drop the razor blades.
Hmm.
And then the child will not become cut. But when the child you try to wrestle the razor blades out of the child's hands, the child will end up with blood on their hands.
Very good point. That the husband should be more intelligent to engage the wife in according to her.
So even if the wife hasn't been well engaged or doesn't come from a culture which is Vedic, still you can tempt the wife away from her Maya with certain tastes.
Hmm.
And those tastes, the wife will be intrigued. Women are easily tempted and by all sorts of things. And if you have something to complain about your wife, it's because she's tempted by something. So the thing is to produce a temptation that will attract her more than the temptations she's going after. If she likes rhinestone bracelets, offer her a diamond. Wait a minute, it looks like a rhinestone, but it's a real thing, and the fire in that diamond is so powerful. And the rhinestone is just like angled glass, big deal. You see, so you have to out-tempt the woman from her Maya, from her desire for the cheap. Anything less than Krishna is cheap taste. So if you offer a woman Krishna, she may say you're trying to force your God on me. But if you show the woman the aspects of Krishna that are so desirable, she'll say, I want that for myself. I want to have that. I want that. When I became a devotee, that's sort of what happened to me. I don't know if I ever finished that story before when I talked to you. I was living with a former girlfriend of the head of the Jim Morrison, the head of the group called The Doors of Perception, and it was another rock group. So we were staying together, and we were having an extraordinarily good, conjugal time. But then I began to feel I'm limited. My body is a limitation to the pleasure I'm having with this woman. My body's a limitation. Why do I have to have this body when my mind is the real enjoyer? If my mind is involved with this woman and her mind is involved with me, as it were, to a large degree, that's nice, but our bodies are in the way. It's clumsy. Then I was sitting there meditating on pictures of Radha and Krishna. And I looked at them and I said, they are the supreme enjoyers. They don't have any bodies, material bodies. They can enjoy each other unlimitedly. there's no limit to how they enjoy each other. I looked at them, and I actually, being a this sort of person, a ferocious sort of guy, I looked at them with anger. Then I looked at them with hatred. I said, why the H do they get to have all the fun? And I, with my body, wish I could get into my mind so I could get closer to my girlfriend without my body and without her body. We could just be on the mental level, in romantic. Why is it I'm stuck here and they, look at them, they get to have perfect pleasure. And on top of it, I'm supposed to worship them. I'm going to worship people that are having fun and I'm not? Give me a break. That's what I was thinking at the time. Then, you can see I'm leading somewhere, can you? Then I had what is called an epiphany. It struck me. It struck me so hard, it hasn't moved since that day to this day. I said, wait, we're all part and parcel of Krishna. I'm not independent of Krishna. My body tries to be independent. My mind tries to be independent. But I, myself, am not independent of Krishna. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Going a step further, I'm part and parcel of Radha and Krishna. Going a step even further, I'm part and parcel of their erotic encounters in the forests of Braj. I am part of their erotic, ultra erotic, beyond imagination, loving exchanges, not just erotic, but loving erotic. I mean, the whole works, complete. I'm part of it. And I have cut myself off by being in this material body. I'm going to become a devotee tomorrow. And guess what? I did.
Jai, so we've been talking for more than 63 minutes now.
Yeah, well, we should stop at this point because my phone is dying.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll continue tomorrow.
We can
Okay,
continue
Prabhu,
tomorrow.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol
Thank you.
Shamanji.
Jai,
Thank you for your encouraging and heartwarming and generous call the other night. It meant a great deal to me. And that's why I'm on the phone
Thank you,
tonight,
Prabhu.
even in a difficult situation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.